Roberts, and I'm the Executive Director of WIDA. It's an honor and privilege for us to host Congressman Earl Blumenauer again here at WIDA today, past honoree at our annual dinner and frequent speaker at WIDA's at the annual dinner. We've been blessed to have you join us in the past. Never before, though, as the Trade Subcommittee Chair, so really pleased to have you here today. Obviously, for the trade community to hear from you at this critical time with so many things on the agenda, to hear what are your priorities and thoughts on what's happening in the world today is very important to the WIDA membership as a testimony to the big crowd we have here today. Going to dispense with a lengthy introduction, remind folks that WIDA's annual dinner is coming up on July 17th. We are officially sold out of sponsorships, but there are still some individual tickets available, and if you have friends who have a table, make sure you give them a call and see if you can get in to the dinner. We'd love to have all of you there for that. I'm going to turn this microphone over to my good friend Steve Lamar, who's also chairman of the board of WIDA, a longtime WIDA board member, and vice president at the American Apparel and Footwear Association. Steve, thanks.
Thanks, Ken. And so I'm just going to introduce Chairman Blumenauer very quickly. He'll give some remarks, and we'll have a little conversation, and then we'll open up for some Q&A. So, of course, he comes to us from Portland. He's been in Congress for about 20 plus years or so, a little bit more than 20 years. And when I see the bicycle pin and the bow tie, I always kind of reminded of a bunch of things that I love so much about the chairman. So he's from Portland, so he represents a lot of great apparel, footwear, sportswear, outdoor brands. Many of them are AFA members. He's a bicycle enthusiast, so he is a walking, talking, and cycling advertisement for the outdoor economy. And of course, as Ken mentioned, he's no stranger to the WIDA family. He received the Congressional Leadership Award at our trade prom a couple of years ago. He's been an introducer at the trade prom. He's been an active participant here, as well as his great staff that has been just terrific with us. And now, as he finds himself as chairman of the Trade Subcommittee at a very interesting time, he's going to have some wonderful perspectives, and will be steering the trade agenda from the House perspective at a very important and crucial time. So without further ado, Chairman Blumenauer.
Thanks, Steve. It is an interesting time. As I recall,
Your microphone up.
moving up a little bit. Okay, is that
That's much better.
Well, we'll wait and see after what I say whether it's better or not. It was interesting when you gave me that award. I referenced in my comments about how we were at a trade crossroads. And it's interesting that in a sense we've been stuck at that crossroads for different reasons. And we find ourselves at a fascinating time now. We were discussing at that point the effort to try and find some common ground so that people could deconstruct what the issues were, dealing with the Trans-Pacific Partnership, trying to take the temperature down and increase the understanding and the interaction. It's still the sort of thing we need to do dealing with the trade agenda. It's being confronted with this administration's trade agenda, or more specifically Donald Trump's trade agenda, is vexing. I don't know anybody fully understands what it is. My heart goes out to Ambassador Lighthizer, who I think has one of the most difficult jobs in our nation's capital. I thoroughly enjoy our interaction. We had a great session yesterday starting to deal with some of the issues that we're trying to work through to raise the comfort level and opportunities for Democrats to support it. The renegotiated NAFTA is not going to pass with 25 Democratic votes. We've been clear about issues that our party has that are unresolved, dealing with environment, enforcement, access to medicine, labor. These are issues that need to be worked through, not just with our caucus, but with Congress and the American people. And I'm confident that we will be able to do so. I think we've already made a lot of progress. And the renegotiated NAFTA, NAFTA 2.0, and the China agenda has taken lots of oxygen and a lot of time. But we're committed to try and move forward. When I talk to my colleagues about taking this assignment. I made a commitment to try and demystify some of the trade agenda, to try and make it more inclusive and less contentious, and more transparent. Not just to my Democratic colleagues, but to others on Ways and Means. I think that is our job. The United States has played a critical role in post-World War II development, having an open trade agenda, trying to be inclusive, lower tariffs, try and give opportunities for other countries to find economic stability through a robust international trade has been a legacy. And it's one that has, I think, produced a number of positive results. We're finding that there are downsides to that agenda. Part of what we found, I think, virtually all of us, looking back at NAFTA 1.0, find out that it did provide some overall economic benefit for the United States, Canada, and Mexico. But for the workers, the promise was not realized. In fact, we had a fascinating discussion yesterday about labor in Mexico, but the experts pointed out that actually the average Mexican worker in inflation-adjusted terms is making less today than before NAFTA 1.0. And frankly, we've had the same wage stagnation in the United States over the course of the last 25 years. That's part of our challenge. We know that the world has benefited economically from being able to have a more effective trade regime. But the benefits of that trade have been concentrated. They have not been shared. Our efforts to try with trade adjustment assistance have been pretty lame. We can do better. The notion of trying, and one of my priorities since I went to Congress, I've dealt with the trade agenda since even before I went on Ways and Means. I have particularly been interested in environmental progress. But again, looking at NAFTA, we look at some of the horrific conditions at the border. NAFTA 1.0 didn't prevent it and didn't have tools to try and remedy it. And I think we need to look at the new trade agreement. Enforcement is going to be key. I was proud of presenting the timber annex for the Peru Free Trade Agreement. If we hadn't had that, I don't think it would have passed, and I don't think it should have passed. But I had an ongoing struggle with the Obama administration and Ambassador Froman to actually enforce those provisions. And we still have illegal logging occurring, and we have had a very light touch holding Peru accountable. These are things that don't help us going forward. If our agreements are not enforced and enforceable, it undercuts our ability to provide that broad consensus we need to be able to move forward, and the agreements are less effective. I am troubled by the drive-by tariff policy of this administration, taxes on the American public, providing distortion in the market, and weakening our position, whatever advantage one feels in terms of browbeating the people on whom they are inflicted. Why were we inflicting them on Canada? National security. You meet with Canadian parliamentarians, trade officials. Why they were singled out? I'm speechless, and it hasn't helped us. And that same sort of randomness has undercut our challenge with China. China is a bad actor. They are pretty ruthless in terms of what's happening in terms of our protection of our intellectual property. They're using techniques and actions that give them unfair advantage, hurt us. But we squandered an opportunity to work on a multinational basis with people who share our values and our concerns and have, collectively, we have more influence than just the United States. Japan, the European Union, should be natural allies working with us. We shouldn't be pounding Mexico and Canada. At the same time, we're trying to make some last-minute adjustments to strengthen the NAFTA 2.0. I'm hopeful that we will be able to work with this administration in a way that allows us to harness that potential power. And candidly, it's a challenge that we all face. We don't want to end our saga with China right now with a purchase order, selling a few more soybeans for a market that actually we have really damaged because of actions that we've taken. We've gone this far, we ought to be working to try and have some of the structural changes, some of the advantages, some of the IP protections, and China living up to its obligations in the WTO. Why in the name of all that's holy, 20 years after they went in the WTO, we put up with the fact that they still don't have a procurement provision? Why are they able to bid and sell defective steel, by the way, for the Bay Bridge? It's frustrating, and it raises problems in Congress. We're going to try and deal with it. I talk for a living, and I need to restrain myself here. I look forward to the conversation we have. And most important, I look forward to not just questions, but comments and observations that you have. We're all in this together. We keep using the term uncharted waters, but we're trying to chart them together. And I think we share common interests. I look forward to the exchange and continuing to work together over the course of this Congress and beyond to make sure that we get the most out of our trade agenda. Thank you very much.